This SMP literally saved Minecraft on YouTube, because Minecraft's so-called second wave of creators, well, they're all not what they once were. Their time in the limelight is over, and we should be going into a severe dip in the maturity of Minecraft content as we swing back towards, you know, stuff made for kids, right? The Lifesteal SMP, or to be more specific, the creators on the Lifesteal SMP, are amongst the smartest YouTubers on the platform right now. While every other content creator was hopping on a trend and making content that felt, honestly, quite stale, this motley group realized that to make a good video, all you actually need is a good story. But how did they save Minecraft YouTube? Stick with me here, we're getting to that, because that's the whole shtick with these guys, right? You look at a video like this and you wonder, how on earth is this Minecraft SMP gameplay getting millions and millions of views, especially when it's not even an old SMP like Hermitcraft. This isn't like the Dream SMP with other more engaging content on YouTube funneling people into the SMP. These guys are making videos on this server, and the thing is, despite what they look like, obviously, most of them are masterpieces. Maybe not of editing, maybe not of visual, but of storytelling. The way they set up and execute on their stakes, the way they introduce themselves as characters, the way they make you invested in whatever actual nonsense that they might be attempting, it's masterful, and it means that you can easily binge these videos for hours and get super invested in this group of friends within 1 or 2 videos. These guys are really new as well. They're probably the same age as you and me, which means that with all of this, a normal friend group and very lightly modified Minecraft, these videos feel really relatable in a way. It feels like you could have easily logged on to like your best friend's Minecraft realm server and done the same thing if you had the idea, of course. And that's the whole point, because the ideas and quality of these videos are also incredibly smart and often genius. I mean, look at someone like Clown Pierce, who commissions custom music for his videos, Rec Rap with custom art for some of his thumbnails, and others with absolutely game-breaking glitches that they're using just for content. There is blood, sweat, and tears put into every one of these videos, but that isn't what really sets them apart. You see, it is very easy to look at a Lifesteal video and click it, because the ideas that go into making a Lifesteal video are perhaps one of the most important parts of it. The players don't clickbait, because we all know clickbait doesn't work and makes people angry, but instead exploit Minecraft itself, the mechanics and the underlying premise of the server, to instead make their video revolve around an idea that is inherently intriguing, to base their story upon a foundation that is inherently clickable. They use Minecraft glitches, social engineering, and case in point, just mechanics. This video by Parrot, he isn't actually building anything in 1.27 seconds, that's impossible, but he lures you in, explains the premise of the video very quickly, and importantly, gets you hooked on the story while he's explaining it. So 30 seconds in, and he's explained the entire premise of the title and the thumbnail, demonstrated the entire thing in action, shown a reaction to make it feel more epic, and explained his goal for the end of the video. He's made you invested and explained the stakes of this entire thing to you. Parrot also goes on to explain the premise of the SMP itself, the Lifesteal SMP, where if you killed someone, you take a heart from them. But that's actually where this becomes even more interesting, because the actual server isn't really the focus of most of these videos, and that is where this entire server managed to completely redefine Minecraft YouTube.
I'm lagging so hard these days.
Lifesteal style videos, that is, videos with a heavy emphasis on storytelling over premise, videos that rely on you getting emotionally involved and invested, well, they don't need to be made on Lifesteal, right? Just because the server lends itself well to this content doesn't mean that it's restricted to that server, and that means that although Lifesteal is the biggest, it was just one of the first to the trend. It took what the Dream SMP did over weeks with lore and condensed it into 1 or 2 videos, and crucially, the members have been working on and refining their craft for much longer than everyone else, to the point where they're just better than most others at making good videos. Concentrating all of these creators into one server means that since everyone is trying to make a story, everyone is always rolling with the punches. They're not going to rage quit after being completely destroyed and rid of all their items, because obviously that is the perfect setup and motivation for a revenge story, and so on. Lifesteal is more than the sum of its parts, because every story intertwines with the next, and everyone is trying to raise the stakes constantly in their own ways, with bigger traps, bigger betrayals, bigger exploits, to the point where every server reset is basically due to the insane power of everyone on the server, limiting traps to a large extent. There are other reasons, of course, but we're not going to get into that. That's a whole nother video. This also means that the Lifesteal creators aren't actually the only creators who have done things like this. Like, while I was writing this video, what immediately came to mind was this fella from like 2 years ago called AJ the Bold, who made a video in which he was literally completely silent, no voiceover, and still absolutely popped off, because everyone can relate to the feeling of losing your dog, of losing your base. The framing of the video makes you feel a bit of that loss, and makes you want to see that revenge being exacted, makes you wait and keep watching through any of these other things like no voiceover that might have made you click off because you want to see these monsters pay. And that's another thing, right? AJ's video was extremely easy to empathize with because even people who don't currently play Minecraft would be able to understand what your dog getting killed would feel like. And this is just like the other Lifesteal videos. It's not Dream is so funny or anything even Minecraft related, but instead how I became God. No Minecraft in the title. This YouTuber thought he could trap me. Well, if you're on YouTube, you know what a YouTuber is. Ideas that transcend Minecraft and are appealing to everyone, in that more people are able to relate to the title, more people are likely to click, and that they count on their incredible storytelling to do the heavy lifting for getting them to keep watching. But what makes this storytelling that much better is that every single player on this server is very good at Minecraft, or at least much better than the average player, to the point where a trap that could feasibly kill them or an exploit that could be used against them is almost always a new idea or a new take on an exploit that normal players wouldn't have heard of. It means that each video had a little bit of that special sauce that worked for Dream's manhunt, the actual interesting part of which was the clutches and the mechanics that he exploited to try and win against these genuinely skilled players. Using these mechanics in ways that would actually have them work against the likes of Parrot and Clownpierce means that by nature most players would also fall for these traps, and hence each video turns into an Ocean's 11 style reveal where you see every contingency being planned for and reacted to, with a very real chance of failure, a chance that is only further emphasized by the fact that these players do quite regularly show themselves failing, to the point where this entire video by RecRap shows an admittedly not that sophisticated trap that ultimately does nothing. These are very real stakes, and this leads to hugely elaborate plans to get an edge in a Minecraft server, which only builds on the sense of involvement and investment in the server, which only makes things feel more real. And if you want an idea for just how insanely elaborate these plans can be, well,
We're at like the TwitchCon partner thingy, right? Why did you give him 10 hearts? What the f? No.
Pengy, what if I told you this entire trip was to get those
No.
hearts?
and that's the thing, right? It works because the lasting effects of each of these elaborate plans remains for an entire season. There is always an inherent disadvantage and incentive to go back and get revenge if someone takes one of your hearts by killing you, because you are suddenly weaker than the entire rest of the server, which at a level as high as this becomes an incredibly important factor, which means that there is a storyline built up by watching everyone's point of view of each video, and it's even more highlighted by the fact that what might be one player's entire video is pretty quickly brushed over in 5 seconds in another's recap, creating that sense of intrigue and encouraging people to watch different members. But those recaps are also super important, right? Because every single Lifesteal episode is structured in such a way that you don't need to have watched any of the previous videos to know and get invested in the story. With the premise of the server being so basic and literally in the name, it means that there's no gatekeeping of the series because you don't know what's going on, as opposed to a server like, let's say, Hermitcraft or Vault Hunters. In fact, these recaps have been, for want of a better word, optimized by the members to such an extent that it's become a meme to call it Minecraft's deadliest server and explain the premise. But it works, you know? It helps to integrate these huge variations in playstyles and personalities into a server that helps them to thrive. But remember how I mentioned earlier that Lifesteal style videos don't have to be made on Lifesteal? The creators realize that as well, which means that these creators don't entirely and solely make Lifesteal videos, instead focusing on making the best videos they can, regardless of the server, keeping their content not only fresh, but also expanding their possible audience in the same way that their broad titles do. And looking at the member list again, right, a lot of these Lifesteal creators either joined with a very small following, or joined at a point where they were very close to being locked into a trend that they had blown up from. Take RecRap's Dream Boat Clutch video, for example, that rocketed him to fame, which he almost immediately capitalized on to keep going with content that he enjoyed. Or AshSwag, who crushed it with YouTube Shorts with the Dream SMP initially, and then pivoted incredibly well, not only to long-form content, but to SMP content as a whole. They used their distinctive storytelling style on servers like Lifesteal to keep momentum going that could have otherwise fizzled out very easily. But let's talk about storytelling a bit more, because like, if the ideas are so simple and YouTube attention spans need stuff to be fast and snappy, how on earth do they still manage to make videos that are decently long? The answer actually lies not on YouTube, but in TV shows that you might have watched. Stuff like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, for example, where there are actually 2 plots to every video, to every episode. The main A plot, which is the actual story that has a big payoff, and the smaller B plot, which is another separate story woven in with each video to try and make the entire thing both more interesting and longer, and these work with each other very well, not just to make the videos longer, but because a cliffhanger in the middle of story A lets story B do all boring setup for one of its own cliffhangers, which lets A develop some more before it leads another cliffhanger, essentially using these interchanging suspense strings to get viewers to string along through the video, even through the classically boring parts of the story, without having to skip over much. They also do make it super fast and snappy, obviously, but this A-B plot thing is usually even easier to do because there are a few players on the server who are mostly streamers, people like Prince Zam and Pangy, who are always available to mess with. For example, in this video by RecRap, where he basically takes a complete break from the main topic of the video while he's waiting to mess with Zam, adding a funny and engaging segment to the video, keeping it not only interesting and varied, but also making the video longer, which obviously helps it algorithmically, and most importantly, this B-plot also has an interesting mechanic integrated into it. It has reactions and it has stuff to keep you actually interested and invested in this story as well. So storytelling, essentially, plus a bunch of other factors, makes the Lifesteal members incredibly good at what they do, and they push Minecraft to its absolute limits to help with this. But if you want to see another SMP that completely broke the game, click here. Subscribe.